Hello everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at a situation where King Kong was in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 1974 instead of King Caesar. This story will be somewhat similar but with some tweaks here and there. Let's get to it! During a snowstorm, Anguirus appears and roars. At the same time, a nearby volcano erupts. Godzilla's roar is heard, but he isn't seen. In Okinawa, citizens watch the descendants of Skull Islanders pay tribute to their ancestors by performing an ancient ritual. While observing the traditional Skull Island ceremony, Nami, one of the descendants, freezes. Nami collapses to the ground in terror. Nami's grandfather runs to her and asks her what is wrong. Nami replies that she has seen a vision of a monster laying waste to civilization and killing all who flee. Nami's grandfather turns to an ancient statue depicting the Skull Island god, King Kong. Nami's grandfather asks the great King Kong to return and stop this impending doom. Two of the observers in the audience, brothers Kazuki and Mashiko, are currently leading expeditions for their respective companies. Kazuki is leading an expedition on Skull Island in the hopes that the legendary King Kong will bring the company great publicity and boost profits. Mashiko, on the other hand, is leading an archaeological dig at the Gaikatsun Cave. Unfortunately, Kazuki's expedition has hit a wall and the crew has been unable to find King Kong. Kazuki met up with his brother in Okinawa to visit an ancient Skull Island temple which is home to the descendants of Skull Islanders. Kazuki hopes to meet with one of the descendants so he can ask for help with his search for King Kong. Despite the fact that the crew has been unable to find King Kong yet, Nami's vision has the men intrigued. They start to speculate that perhaps the legends about the beast are true. Mashiko suggests to Kazuki that maybe a Skull Islander can help lead Kazuki to King Kong. They decide to approach Nami and ask her if she will come on the expedition to help the crew find King Kong. Nami agrees to go to the island to find King Kong, who she thinks can save humanity from utter catastrophe. Afterwards, Kazuki drops Mashiko off at his dig site at Gaikatsun Cave and bids farewell to his brother. A few days later, Kazuki returns to Skull Island with Nami. While on their trip, they witness a strange cloud formation that resembles a black mountain. Nami and Kazuki are unsure what this formation means, but the phenomenon reinforces Kazuki's drive to find King Kong. Meanwhile, Mashiko and his partner Seiko find a bizarre piece of metal at the excavation site. They decide to bring it to Professor Majima at Mount Fuji. Majima remarks that the metal is unlike any found on Earth. Most likely, this metal originated from outer space and gives it the name Space Titanium. During Mashiko's visit, an earthquake strikes. Seiko remarks that tremors have been occurring frequently over the last few days. Back on Skull Island, Nami and Kazuki discover a cave with ancient murals alongside a statue of King Kong. Nami begins translating the cave paintings in hopes that it will lead them to King Kong. The prophecy reads, "When a black mountain appears above the clouds, a monster will appear to try to destroy the world. But when the red moon sets and the sun rises in the west, two monsters will appear to save the people." Nami realizes that in order to gain King Kong's attention, she must say an ancient Skull Island prayer to him. Meanwhile, Mashiko and Seiko race to figure out where the Space Titanium originated from. They head to Professor Wagara in Tokyo to see if he can give them any more insights. That night, as Wagara looks into the Space Titanium, strange men break into the house and hold Seiko hostage, demanding they return the metal. Mashiko disarms the stranger. Stunned, the stranger flees into the night. The next day, Mount Fuji suddenly erupts and a huge rock hurls out of its crater. The rock bursts open and reveals Godzilla. This Godzilla is unusually hostile and aggressive and sports a different roar. After learning about the cave murals from Kazuki, Seiko and Mashiko are shocked that Godzilla is the evil monster predicted in the prophecy. Godzilla begins rampaging in the countryside. Suddenly, the ground opens up beneath Godzilla, which causes him to trip and fall. Anguirus surfaces from underground and challenges Godzilla. Seiko and Mashiko watch the two fight and comment on how weird it is for Anguirus to attack his friend Godzilla. Godzilla and Anguirus battle for a while. Anguirus slams Godzilla with his spikes and tears off some skin. The tear reveals metal underneath, suggesting that this isn't Godzilla at all. Godzilla retaliates and brutally defeats Anguirus by breaking his jaw. Anguirus retreats and Godzilla continues on towards Tokyo, destroying everything in sight. Seiko and Mashiko inspect the battle area and notice more pieces of the Space Titanium. They bring the metal back to Miyajima's lab, verifying that the metal is indeed Space Titanium. Miyajima says he'd like a better look at Godzilla. The group heads to Tokyo. Meanwhile, on Skull Island, Kazuki gets word that Godzilla is on the loose and is destroying everything. Kazuki begs Nami to perform for King Kong so he can reveal himself. Kazuki hopes that they can bring King Kong back to Japan to fight and stop Godzilla. Nami heads onto the beach and performs the ancient Skull Island prayer. After some time, King Kong reveals himself and beats his chest furiously. Kazuki and the crew devise a plan to bring King Kong back to Japan. Meanwhile, Mashiko, Seiko, and Miyajima watch Godzilla destroy a port area with his atomic breath. As Godzilla decimates the area, another Godzilla appears. The Godzilla roars at the other Godzilla and the two monsters start fighting. During the battle, Godzilla reveals a large portion of the metal underneath the other's skin. Miyajima realizes that the Godzilla that emerged from Mount Fuji is a cyborg imposter, or a Mechagodzilla. With everything exposed, Mechagodzilla sheds its disguise and reveals its true form. Mechagodzilla assaults Godzilla with his attacks. Godzilla fires his atomic breath, but Mechagodzilla counters with his eye beams. This causes a huge explosion. Mechagodzilla is damaged and Godzilla is knocked into Tokyo Bay and vanishes. Miyajima hypothesizes that Mechagodzilla is being controlled remotely by aliens, and the group returns to the Gaikensen cave. While exploring the cave, the group is ambushed and brought into a secret lair. There, they are greeted by Kurunuma, the leader of the Black Hole Planet 3 Aliens Invasion Force. The aliens make a deal with Miyajima to repair Mechagodzilla in exchange for being spared. Back on Skull Island, the crew has successfully managed to knock out King Kong and are bringing him back to Japan to fight. Meanwhile, out on a secluded island, Godzilla is repeatedly struck by lightning. He manages to harness its electrical power and produces a magnetic force field. While en route to Japan, some of the crew on the ship are actually Black Hole Planet 3 aliens and attempt to sabotage King Kong's arrival. Kazuki figures out what's going on, but it's too late. The aliens explode the raft holding King Kong. Kazuki battles with the aliens and kills them, revealing their true ape identity. Kazuki watches the sky as the sun rises. It produces a mirage that makes it appear another sun is rising in the west, bringing the prophecy from the murals even closer to completion. King Kong surfaces, roars, and begins swimming towards Japan. Eventually, Kazuki and his team dock into Japan. Kazuki hears that his brothers Seiko and Professor Miyajima are missing. Kazuki heads to the Gaikensen cave to search for them. At the alien base, Miyajima has completed his work on Mechagodzilla and is thrown into an execution chamber. Kurunuma activates the chamber, which begins to fill with hot steam intended to boil the prisoners alive. When Kazuki searches the cave, he finds Miyajima's special pipe, which contains positive and negative electrodes that allow it to destroy the circuits and machinery. Kazuki is held at gunpoint. Thankfully, Nanbara, an Interpol agent, has been following Kazuki and takes the alien hostage. The men gain access to the base and overpower two aliens and take their uniforms. They arrive at the execution chamber and free the professor. Aliens arrive and Kazuki and Nanbara quickly shoot and kill them. The humans flee the base and are about to get into Kazuki's car, but Nanbara advises against this. The car explodes, leading the alien leader to believe that the humans are dead. The aliens proceed with their plans and Mechagodzilla is launched from the base. Mechagodzilla arrives in a nearby city and begins obliterating everything. Mechagodzilla destroys buildings left and right. He fires his space beam attack. He fires missiles that obliterate everything. In the midst of his rampage, it's reported that King Kong has made it to shore near Okinawa. The aliens quickly redirect Mechagodzilla to fight King Kong so he can't thwart the aliens' plans. Mechagodzilla arrives near King Kong, and Mechagodzilla fires his eye beam, stunning Kong. Angered, King Kong charges Mechagodzilla and the monsters go back and forth. Mechagodzilla fires his attacks as King Kong attempts to dodge them. King Kong body slams Mechagodzilla, pushing him down to the ground. King Kong begins repeatedly hitting Mechagodzilla. Eventually, Mechagodzilla gets King Kong off and gets ready to fire all of his weapons. Mechagodzilla fires all of his weapons and obliterates King Kong. King Kong flees and hides from the oncoming assault. Mechagodzilla obliterates the mountain King Kong is hiding behind. The aliens watch as Mechagodzilla attacks King Kong. Kazuki is shocked that King Kong might lose. Mechagodzilla charges King Kong and throws him into a ditch. Mechagodzilla gets ready to fire his finger missiles. Godzilla erupts from the water. Mechagodzilla turns to watch Godzilla come ashore. Kazuki remarks that the prophecy on the murals found on Skull Island have come true. Godzilla is the second monster prophesied to save the world. Godzilla arrives on land and joins forces with King Kong and battles Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla unleashes all of his attacks at Godzilla and King Kong. King Kong and Godzilla struggle to keep the upper hand. Before Godzilla can reach Mechagodzilla, Mechagodzilla takes off and fires at Godzilla from the air. Godzilla gets blasted in the neck with Mechagodzilla's eye beams, knocking Godzilla down. Mechagodzilla fires his missiles at a downed Godzilla. Godzilla gets up and begins emitting a magnetic force field, pulling electrical towers into his body. Mechagodzilla begins to be pulled out of the air. Eventually, Mechagodzilla falls to the ground and Godzilla grabs a mechanical monster. King Kong repeatedly attacks Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla attempts to retreat, but Godzilla weighs him down and pulls him to the ground. Godzilla grabs Mechagodzilla's head and twists it around. Finally, Mechagodzilla's neck and head area explode. Mechagodzilla's head falls off. Kurunuma is stunned that Mechagodzilla was defeated. Meanwhile, the prisoners are freed by Nanbara. He then throws the two halves of Miyajima's pipe at the opposite ends of the alien's computer. The computer malfunctions. Nanbara uses this opportunity to kill Kurunuma. Destroying the computer sets off the base's self-destruct feature. As the base explodes, so does Mechagodzilla's wreckage, sending Godzilla falling into the ocean. Godzilla surfaces shortly and swims off. King Kong heads into the ocean as well and begins heading back to Skull Island. Kazuki, Seiko, Nami, and Mashiko let out a sigh of relief. Nami's grandfather remarks that the spirits of their Skull Island ancestors can now rest in peace. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments. See you in the next one, G-fans.